What's up, everybody? Ready to start the stream. So today we're going to work on the machine guns, which we have the extra machine gun in kit form. Those pieces, we have the original machine gun, and then we've got these gas cans that are part of the accessories kit, as well as their little tops. So we're going to get these put together real fast. Hey, what's up, Brayden? I'm sorry you're not feeling well. Yeah, just stay as long as you want. We're just going to be on for the 1 hour. We're not going to go over this time. I've got a lot of stuff to do. Sorry you're not feeling good, man. Glad to see you, though. So I'm just going to start with putting these gas cans together. They're not too difficult even with the small pieces. Always glad to see you, man. I'm really excited. Over the past few days in my spare time, I've been working on a new graphics look for the show and a new way of doing things, which will be slower to implement, but it's going to be really, really cool. Make it much more professional. And I'm hoping that I can get it to work on live stream and just not on edited content. So we'll see how it is, but I've got a brand new look that I'll be rolling out maybe this weekend. New opening videos and stuff. I've been working on the second airbrushing video showing people how to airbrush with acrylics, so look for that very, very soon. I just did all the basic shooting for it yesterday. So I've got to do the editing, and I've got to do the me in front of the camera shots. So I got one session left of shooting, and then I'll be ready to put all that together. So I'm hoping to be able to do all that this weekend, and that's going to be an awesome video. I'm hoping to be able to show off the new way of doing things. Yes, it's actually it's debated heavily as to what is the best airbrushing method, but aside from the fumes and cleaning, it is easier to thin enamels than it is to thin acrylics. It's just the nature of the beast. Most of the acrylic paints that we get, aside from probably Tamiya, are really pigment heavy, so they've got lots of pigment in the paint. That's what makes them so good for like regular brushing. But that makes them hard for thinning for an airbrush. So if you notice that your airbrush gets clogged a lot or you have lots of issues, that's just because it's a very pigment-heavy paint. And there's tricks to make all of that work. So I'm going to be going over how I thin my acrylics in this video. And I'm basically clog-free. And it works really well. But yeah, if you're doing a lot of metal, then I'm learning that it's a good idea to at least put one enamel coat down to get something to really stick to the metal surface. Like I've got a HO scale model train, a logging train. So like back in the early 1900s and late 1800s, they had special geared trains for loggers up in the mountains. And they're really, really cool trains to watch move because they've got so many gears and stuff on the wheels. So I bought this old kit off of eBay, and it was literally like a model kit that somebody built, like back in the 70s or 80s or whatever. And the guy did a decent job, but I really wanted to like fix all the issues, so I ended up basically buying a whole kit slowly and redoing it all and putting all the brass pieces and stuff on there. And then I had a real hard time painting it with my normal painting method. And I painted metal figures before and never had these issues, and I was like, what is going on here? Why is the paint just like flaking off? And then the more I'm researching, the more I'm figuring out, well, it's because the acrylic paint doesn't adhere well to metal, but enamel does. So certain tricks for certain types of things, but yeah, Yeah, if you ever wanted to try it, go pick yourself up some Tamiya enamel paint, or Mr. Color makes a series of paints, like the Mr. Glues and all that stuff. Supposedly they're really good paints. You can give it a try. You can thin them down really, really far. But I'm finding that by using just a little bit of isopropyl alcohol with flow improver in your acrylic, you can thin down the paints really far. Now, people talk about if you add alcohol to Vallejo paints or other pigment-heavy paints, that you can get it to where it curdles. That's where you get little pockets of pigment. Basically, it's just nasty and you can't airbrush it at all. And that's possible if you add too much alcohol or the wrong kind of alcohol. Oh yeah, there you go. So if you have that, then you just need enamel thinner. Of course, everybody's going to recommend, you know, you get the Tamiya X20A or another thinner like that. If you want to start off cheaper, then just go to your art store or Home Depot and get odorless thinner, odorless spirits. That'll be a regular enamel thinner, and you can mix with that. I do that for all my oils and everything like that, and it's just fine. If you have the money, I think you're going to get probably a little bit better of a job with the proper material, the X20 thinner or whatever. But like, don't worry about that kind of thing. I don't know if I'm going to do a video on enamel, because I don't have any enamel. Well, I do. I've got like maybe 2 or 3 bottles. And that's probably the reason why I learned how to do acrylics. It's because I didn't want to have to redo my entire library of paints. But eventually, I'll probably do a little video on it. But again, it's super easy. Like, it's the easiest paint to mix. Alright, sorry, I was just cleaning that up a little bit. So this guy... Let's see here. How does this go together? You can't find a cheap acrylic paint that's the right color you need. Where have you looked at Hobby Lobby? Because they sell Vallejo. Or if you're in the United States, so maybe you've got a Hobby Town, and they will have a very wide variety of paints. I'm seeing the Vallejo's now coming out with a game color paint, which is very, very pigment heavy. I'm looking forward to getting some of that and testing it out to see what kind of mixtures to thin them down, because I'm excited about the more pigment that comes in there, because you can use less paint and more thinner, so your paint goes a long way. And I think that's super exciting. Let me go grab my accessory box so I can go look at this gun and see where these pieces go real quick. Okay. So you're ordering online. So if you order online, then basically you can go just about anywhere online to get your paints. But if your mom or you, I don't know if you drive, you're in United States, probably not. But the next time you go into town, Hobby Town is going to be your best option. It's a little bit more expensive in some ways, but you're going to get a much better selection of paints. So I 100% recommend going there. Okay, I'm looking... Don't tell me that I already lost the handle to the gun. That would be like the most unfortunate thing Because I basically just kind of dusted all of these into the box. Oh, these are all the unclean parts. Yeah. Wrong container. Here we go. Where are you, little guy? Oh, there's a chance I might have blown you off yesterday, too. Oh, that's a big bummer. Man. You live and learn, I guess. That sucks. So I seem to have accidentally sacrificed the handle of the 50 cal to the carpet gods yesterday when I was doing some airbrushing tutorials. I accidentally blew some pieces that I had stacked up in the corner of my desk. So that's really unfortunate, so I'm going to have to do some searching for that. So we're not going to show that on camera, but hopefully I'll find it. It's small, but it's white, so for some reason white shows up a heck of a lot better on my carpet than the brown of the Tamiya. So we'll see what happens. I know, rest in peace. So stupid. Oh, the wishes for the next place that I live, which I'm hoping is going to be next year, where I have a dedicated room specifically for doing these videos, and I have a very contrasty floor where it's impossible to lose things. That is the goal. Okay, so back to work. That's weird, they didn't put a groove in here for this. There we go. Alright. Hold this steady for a minute. Dang it. I was curious if this resin works with this glue well or not. It's definitely not welding like the Tamiya does. The Tamiya plastic. I've got some super glue over here just in case this doesn't work. So if that doesn't work, then yep. Ah, oh, crap. Okay. That's unfortunate. So we're going to break out the CA glue, Instaflex. It's slightly flexible. Which I find provides a better hold. Yep. I used to use this instead of anything else, but I found that the Tamiya stuff is cleaner, so I switched. But it seems like it does not like resin very much. That is going to be a very fragile piece. Okay, we're going to let that dry. Let's move back to these suckers since they obviously didn't work. Who makes the kit that you're building, Kappa? Yeah. That stuck a little bit. So these are actually a lot easier to put on than I thought. Really, you're just kind of lining it up and then pushing your fingers down the sides. So, for a minute there, when I first started putting these together, I was thinking I might have to use a pair of tweezers, but it's not so bad. There we go. Cool. They're all done. Nice and easy. Okay. So next part of this thing is this sucker. So I'm going to bring this close to my face. Good, you guys can see too. Looks like the picture of the part is actually a different piece altogether, which is weird. Alright, so good news is though that does just snap in. And then this guy. I believe I'm supposed to put a piece of brass in there. So that piece we're going to save for later, because that needs to be the same color as the tank itself. I think that's all the gluing we need to do for right now, so that's good. So let's move on to the paint. So we're going to do these guys, thinking a little bit differently, mixing up my primer. We're just going to use a Vallejo regular primer, gray, no blacks, because I don't want to do a two-coat process on it. And I think I'm just going to use a lid for the primer. And we'll just do a little bit of hand painting on this guy. Just get a base coat going. And then we'll pull up some references and get the colors going. So I think a lot of people, when they're doing primer as not any base coat whatsoever, just something for the paint to stick to, they go in there and they're trying to make sure that it's really, really even, that it is 100% covered, and that's not necessarily something that you have to do. You do want to make sure that it's covered, but it doesn't have to be this perfectly even gray tone. You do need to have paint on there because that's where you're getting that stick from. But if it has like little brush strokes or it's not 100% solid, like that's completely fine. Because your next layers of paint will go right over that. And you've already done the proper job of giving it that tack coat. So just a little trick. Like you can see on this piece here, that lighter area, and probably a lot of this is going to dry lighter like that. That's completely fine. Now if you're using this as part of your coloring, then you do want it to be nice and solid. In that case, you would definitely use an airbrush if you have one. That'll keep the paint thin. So from our live stream on Monday, we did those fabric bags, and I really enjoyed doing that, and they're not done. And I think it'd be cool to show everybody what it looks like to go through the oil process on those, because that's when they're really going to come to life. So I'm going to turn the rest of that process into a video all on its own, and it'll just be part of like maybe a stowage series on how to work with fabrics and things like that, and show you the process of the airbrushing, getting the proper tones, and then doing just the basic oil variation colors before you put it on a tank and do the same weathering process you would with the tank. So I think at that point then you know what you're doing, and you're trying to make it match the same feel as the tank. Alright. So before I let it go, let me grab my handy hair dryer. And we're just going to dry this sucker off real quick so that I can touch the rest of it. I don't know what I did with my life before I started using a blow dryer, hair dryer to dry acrylics. Maybe I was more patient back then. Now that's a good question, though, for anybody in the chat who wants to respond, or if you guys want to post in the comments. Do you use a hair dryer? I've seen people that have little space heaters that they just set off to one side of their workshop, and it's not necessarily next to them, but they'll put their pieces up in front of the little heater to dry them off real quick. There's a variety of different ways, I think, to quickly dry off acrylic paints, but how do you dry off your acrylic paints? Or do you just let them air dry? And how does that make you feel? To have to sit there for 15-20 minutes. I can tell you that a hairdryer itself is insanely inexpensive. Mine was less than $10, and it performs an admirable job. Alright, so that guy, we're just going to let sit. Oh, you would just wait? I mean, that's how I started. I don't think I started using a hairdryer until my 20s. So, from, I think I was 7 or 8 when I started making models. So from age 8 into my, we'll say, mid-20s, never used a hairdryer, always had to wait. So sad, so sad. Not to say that if you don't have one, it's a wrong thing, but it definitely saves a lot of time. And saving time is a good thing. But it's a good thought-provoking question, too. Because there may be some people out there who are more purist, I guess, in the way they paint and wouldn't use one. And I'm sure there are reasons why not to use one, maybe? I'd love to hear about it, so post those in the comments. Oh, if either one of you, Kappa or Braden, are interested in trying to get back onto that Google Drive folder, there were some emails sent to me. I don't know if that was before or after, but I opened up as much permission as I can. So it should be added to your own personal Google Drives as a folder now that you can access. So Braden, if you were on your phone and you go to the Google Drive app, you should be able to access that folder. Dry this thing off real quick. Big shout out to all the viewers who are watching and not commenting or can't comment based on phone situation or whatever. You guys are very appreciated. So glad to see you guys here. Alright, so one thing with these guns, you can see that some of those holes are filling up. So I'm going to introduce some fluid. There we go. Just turn that into sludge, and then we'll pick it up. See if I've got a thicker brush super handy. Not that one. Got my 2 dry brushing brushes. That's not going to help very much. There we go. Slowly but surely we're getting that texture back. There's a good chance it would have come back on its own when it dried, but you never want to give that paint a chance to really get in there. So I'm just rubbing it with my finger. Just opening up any other holes. Those holes are stupid tiny. Too small for the toothpick. Looks like the only thing that's gonna work for this barrel is gonna be a wash, which is fine. All right. We'll just do all these in halvesies. Man, time really flies. It's already 9:30. I'm hoping that we're only going to have one more video after this on stowage. I want to go over some of the tools, how to do wood effects with acrylic, and then the metal pieces for tools, and then the rest of it is just repeat with all the crates and stuff. I think we'll put the crates in with the wood video, so we'll have one video next week for tools and stuff like that. And then from there, I'm going to do all the rest of the work behind the scenes to do all the repetition. And we'll move on to putting them on the tank and getting the actual weathering, which is going to be all the dust, the grime, and the oil and dirt and all that stuff started on the tank, so we can then move on to the tracks and then the diorama part and be done with it. We've been working on this for a few weeks now, and I'm ready to build a P-38 Lightning. But I'm thinking possibly it might be a good idea to maybe on next Monday start the stream at 8. And go longer. And we'll have one day that's a longer time. Which theater will the lightning be in? I went to A&M, College Station, here in Texas, and I found a decal set for a guy that went through the Corps. I was in the Corps as well, in the Air Force. So I found a guy that was in the Corps and was a fighter ace from A&M, and he flew both theaters. So I've got decals for both of them, and I haven't decided. I really want to do the European theater, to be honest, because I like those color schemes, and in some ways I think that the chromed out airplanes are a little bit boring to me. That's just kind of my taste. But I'm also interested in showing people and experimenting myself in how to get something that is like super, super shiny, because I think I know how to do it using the AK's metal paints and some special polishing techniques. So I'm not real sure. I'm still thinking about it. I mean, either one's gonna look pretty cool, you know? But yeah. My first inclination was European theater. And that's the theater that I enjoy most in history. But I haven't officially decided. Okay, so I'm gonna hop over real quick and look up some reference images real fast on these guns, so that I can make sure that I'm painting them appropriately as they would be on the tank. Because I'm pretty dang sure that they didn't paint them green. Yeah, they did not. You've got... What did you say about the museum? Here, let me look back in the chat. I haven't actually started the P-38, so if you have access to a P-38 in a museum, dude, I'm all for it. That would be awesome. Okay, so it looks like the cradle itself, all of this part that moves is the color of the tank, and then the rest of it is going to be that black metal. Oh, okay. That makes sense. No, I mean, I'm sure there's tons of references. I've been saving images off of Instagram for the last couple of months, too. How do I want to do this? But I appreciate you thinking about me. That is pretty awesome. So what it really turns out is I could have primed all those guns black, because that would have made more sense. But I'm going to start with the Scale 75 dark metal color, and we're going to see what that looks like. I haven't used these metal colors very much. And if that doesn't work, then probably what we're going to end up doing is using a pure black, or a black gray, I think is going to be better. And maybe adding some gloss to make it look metallic. Because this metallic might be too metallic, we're going to find out. I lean towards it being too metallic, but you never know with these things. That's why experimentation is fun. And we're going to do the tank color last. Building a wooden model. Yes. It has always been a dream of mine to build a wooden ship, and I would love to build the Pirates of the Caribbean ship. People have done it, so I know that it's possible. You talking about a guillotine? Explain yourself, Brayden. So I think this is still a little bit too silvery, but we're going to go ahead and finish the coat, and then maybe give it a black wash, and see if that keeps the shine or that metal look while darkening it up, darkening the finish. I find that washes can do a tremendous amount. Gillows is a wooden aircraft kit making brand. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay, so I have built a wooden RC airplane before. I built a Piper Cub that had an 8-foot wingspan, and that was when I was your age, and it was awesome fun, but way too big. I haven't really thought about building another wooden aircraft, whether it was just for show or, you know, actually able to be powered or whatnot. I don't know. I wouldn't put it past myself, to be honest. But I'd rather build a ship more than the airplane at this moment. There's so many things that I want to do with the show, and a lot of it is just going to depend on getting everybody who loves it and everybody who views it to subscribe and get connected and get the thing built up to where we can do some really cool stuff. Okay. I love looking at the guys who do the really awesome World War I aircraft. I thought that would be a really fun kit to do at some point. All the cables and those are wooden, or you can make them look wooden, which would be a whole nother series. I love making oil paints look like wood. I get a really big kick out of that. I'm ready to mix up this playlist of music soonish. We've heard these songs a decent amount. Okay, so I'm gonna let that dry. There's no way for me to control them either. It's just a list. So I have a list of like 100 songs and I can't just skip through them. Let's look for our... We're gonna base coat the jerry cans in military green, because they do not fall into the same standards as the tank itself. There's the wrong lid for that. Oh yeah. We need to finish priming the bottom. Oopsies. So I guess let's do that, and then we'll wash the guns. So this is really not a hard task, and I'm glad, because it seems like it took forever just putting the dang things together. I apologize for that. In my brain, I think that certain modeling tasks don't take very long, so I'm like, oh, I can just do that on the stream, it'll take 5 minutes, then we can move on to the cool part, and then it ends up taking like half an hour, and I'm like, ah, man, that was not the right move. Now everybody's just sitting there watching me put this together instead of watching me paint, which is the fun part. But I guess all part of the learning process, eh? So between the two of you, Braden and Kappa, I know you're in 9th grade, and it's probably too early to tell. But have you guys thought about what you guys want to do for college? What you want to do for a living? Or are you still just kind of enjoying high school? Okay. Got this done. Okay. Army's a good choice. Obviously, with a love for the military, that makes sense. Do you have an idea about what you would want to do in the military? This is Army Painter Quick Shade. It is a series of washes. And they're really awesome. So if you don't like making your own washes, they make a great wash. Airborne. Oh, nice. Airborne as in soldier airborne, or airborne as in helicopter pilot airborne? Sure, go for it, man. I love reading, just reading the chat. Like, it's awesome fun. So I'm really laying on this wash heavy, because all the gel part of it will disappear. It dries pretty flat. And it might take a couple of coats to get the darkness that we're wanting, but I think it will keep a bit of that kind of black feel, which is good. Soldier, nice.
Let's make a run together. I'll be by your side before we collide. And if the sky falls down on you, just beat it up before we collide. When we collide, let's make it last forever. I'm ready to fly before we collide. When we collide, and when the sun don't shine on you, just heat it up before we collide.
Sticky stuff, sticky tack, and a toothpick. So that was it? Sorry, I was trying to follow along while I was painting. So the F4 Phantom went too low and blew himself up. And obviously this would be a lot smoother airbrushing. I don't know why I'm not, actually. I think it's just because I was hand painting those guys. I have to imagine that Braden's right. Like, that happened a few times, you know? It's really crappy. Though I do remember reading stories and, like, especially in Vietnam and stuff like that, like, we were excellent pilots. Like, our guys are some of the best pilots out there. And I think, and still are, you know. So maybe it didn't happen a whole lot. So the bottom of these cans, I'm realizing, like, you're not going to be able to see them because they're sitting on the tank. And I'm going to paint them real quick with the proper shade anyway, so why not just do this right the first time? And that way we can do our shading. Alright, so I grabbed this can while it was still wet. I got my fingerprints on it. It wouldn't surprise me. So I'm actually just using friction to rub off the fingerprints. Little trick. Okay, we're gonna set these off to the side real quick. They're still drying anyway. Looks like they'll be able to use one more coat. Let's mix up some green. Yeah, Yeah, that really doesn't surprise me in the least, to be honest with you. So I'm going for a layer consistency on this. I'm using 8 drops of green. I used 3 drops of isopropyl alcohol, and then filled the bottom of the cup with flow improver. And it's thin, but it should cover decently well. And I've still got my .02 brush, or needle in there, so it'll be a finer spray, but we'll be fine. I'm gonna add some darkness to this. Dark, 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 dark. I think military green might be a little bit too green. Let's add some stained olive. Muddy olive, stained olive, muddy olive. If there's anything in the muddy olive, there we go. So we picked up. This is actually going to turn out to be very interesting. So if you look at this, we've got some specks here, and this is where I set it down with the primer wet, and it picked up a little bit of the coloring paper that I'm using to coat the workstation. And I'm actually going to leave it there instead of sanding it off, because that's actually going to create an interesting texture for rust, for making a weathered look. So instead of them just being like, doing like edge wear, we can actually put a little bit of rust in those spots of texture. And some of the tanks will actually have some unique characteristics, which is pretty cool. Alright. Well, that's ridiculous. That didn't work at all. Alright, we're just gonna add some black gray. I try not to use black to darken a color, because it removes the brightness of that color. But this is still gonna work fine for a shadow color. Just looking for a nice strong base tone. There we go. Jerry cans starting to look pretty darn good. Okay. So you're adding tan to the gray to lighten it up. That's interesting. Now you can, if you're working with just straight up grays, like there's nothing wrong with using blacks and whites. Blacks and whites work fine. And if you're looking to desaturate your colors and to pull some of that brightness out, then that's also fine. But if you're looking to keep the richness in, like supposedly with green you add blue, add a nice dark rich blue to it, and that's going to darken the green, but it's going to make it vibrant as well. And you add yellow to the green to make it brighter. So there's this whole little color theory thing that I want to try to figure out an easy way to explain as I'm learning it as well, to where we can be like, okay, we're using this color. See you Monday, Braden. Good luck. I hope you feel better. But I want to come up with a checklist where we can say, okay, we're going to paint this color. These are the different colors that we can mix with it to give it really cool tone. Okay, let's let that dry. Let's go back to our guns real quick. So we're sort of dark. Not the darkness that I'm looking for. What you can also use is make a wash out of black oil paint. And that'll definitely do the trick. That's a little, I'm hoping, a little overkill, but we might end up doing that too. This is slowly darkening. It just might take a minute. The good news is that it's keeping its metallic properties. It's not a glossy metallic or a shiny metallic, but these guns weren't very shiny. It was that black painted metal look, you know? Alright, so keep going with those. Let's give this a go with the gun real quick. Sorry I'm not keeping it in camera. I don't want to blow anything that's on that table. So I'm just doing this in my lap. So it's easier that way. If it's the last thing I do, I'm going to find the handle to that 30 cal. So even with the airbrush, it took a few coats to get it to look decently solid, and that's completely fine. You actually want that more often than not on these types of things, because if you go thicker, you're going to risk the spotting and the clotting, the clogged airbrush, all that kind of stuff. So it's better just to work it up slowly. Oh, nice. Sweet. I'm looking forward to seeing it posted up there. Stick it on the Google Drive, too. I think we're good there. I'm going to clean that out. Clean the airbrush out real quick. Yeah, if on Monday we're gonna do a longer show, I definitely want to see some of you guys work on here. So what it should be doing is on your Google Drive, it should be added as a folder on your Google Drive once you're accepted. Like you shouldn't have to. You can use that link, which is gone now. I'll have to get it again, but you shouldn't have to. You should just be able to go to your Google Drive, like on your phone or on the computer or whatever, and it's just there. You have full access to it. So that's what I'm thinking is going on. That's what happens to me if I use my other account. My non-Modeler Mentor account is that it's just there on my Google Drive. So you saw for a second my acrylic cleaning station, just a Tupperware container with a terry cloth inside. It's magical. Do not use it if you're doing enamels. Use a proper airbrush cleaning station, because there's all kinds of crazy fumes. But for acrylics, it's completely okay. And if you're going to be painting for more than a couple of hours, then you need to wear some sort of mask or have some sort of ventilation if you're painting with acrylics. They don't put off fumes that you can smell, but there are fumes. So like if I'm going to do a day-long session, then the window's open. Like for sure. Okay. So where are we at on these guys? They're looking pretty good. I think we can just go with oils on these. Just do some color variation on top of the acrylic. So they're going to get sealed. So we'll call those done. Keep them in frame. Let's go back to these guys. Whoop. Camera. So they're darkening up pretty good. I think we're going to let that dry. And we're going to call it ready for oil paint as well. Oh, good. Yeah, I mean, acrylics are your least dangerous, but it doesn't mean that they're not dangerous. I don't wear a mask unless I'm painting for more than an hour.
Was told that you belong on the riverside.
But safety is very important.
Looking far from being strong, turning from the tide. I went down to see you there. Your eyes were dark and cold. I picked you up to
So I'm painting, and that's, I mean, you could use any brush for this particular job, but I'm using my Winsor & Newton Series 7, which is probably the best brush series, as far as I know, in the world for acrylics. If you don't have one, it's totally worth saving up for them. They're about, for the smaller sizes, they're $10 to $12 a piece on Amazon, and they're worth their weight in gold with how well the brushes keep their tip, how long they last, how fine the tip is at the point. I can use, this one is a number 1, and I could use this to paint a face, because that tip is so well controlled. They're amazing. I want to get one more. I do want to get like in the zeros somewhere, and that's for like my 28mm figures. And that's just because there's a couple of things I want to do, like fine hairs, wood grain, that kind of thing. Yeah, dude, it'll change your life. Now you do have to take care of them, but it's really easy to take care of a brush Just keep some IPA around that isopropyl alcohol. I'm raving about it right now just because it's doing such a good job for me on just about every front. But once you clean your brush with water and you're done with your session, give it a good cleaning with isopropyl alcohol, because that isopropyl alcohol eats into that acrylic paint a little bit, and it's going to pull the paint out from inside the base and up here where you don't really get a lot of cleaning done. And it's going to really do a good deep clean on the brush, and that's what keeps the tip sharp. Because it's the paint that's left in there after you try to clean it completely that separates the hairs of the brush. Don't need that on. Okay. Let's get these a good dry. Yeah, dude, neither did I. I mean, I knew from smelling, like, airbrush thinner that you buy from the store that it had some alcohol in it. And I remember way back in the day, I don't even remember how old I was. I think it was in my early 20s. I had looked up, like, what is a really, really good, like, modeling medium to mix with your acrylics instead of water to get a better consistency of paint for just paintbrushing figures, like just hand painting. And somebody had this really interesting recipe, and it was like you go to Hobby Lobby and you grab like acrylic medium, like a non-glossy, just medium. Then you need IPA, isopropyl alcohol, and water, and you mix like 8 parts water to 2 parts mixing medium to like half a part of isopropyl alcohol or something like that. And I remember the article saying, like, you know, the alcohol helps to thin out the paints properly. And I did not write down the recipe, and I've been trying to get it for the longest time. And then I was just watching some guys on YouTube and reading some more articles, and I'm realizing, like, IPA is the trick. Like, it is the thing, but it has to be used properly, and that's the trick. It seems like people have tried to use IPA, and when I've tried to make my mixing mediums before, I've been using too much IPA, and that's what causes all the problems. Like, it doesn't take a lot for it to do its job. So just use it really, really sparingly, or as a cleaner, you know? Clean your airbrush with it. If you have a model that you need to strip so that you can repaint it, use IPA to do that, the solid, you know, pure IPA. But if you're wanting to get some really good thin paint mixes, then just put a little bit in there, a couple of drops. It'll change your world. So many uses. Trying to remember the guy's name on YouTube that I read it from. He does terrain for war games, and I've been learning about terrain so that I can do better dioramas, because I think dioramas are going to be much more fun on the show instead of just doing static stuff. Enamel paint stripping. Probably your commercial paint stripper that you get at Home Depot. I'm not sure of a good, gentle process for that. That would be a great question to throw out to the guys on the Facebook, and if we had more people on here to answer that question. If you know the answer to that question, please put that in the comments below, because I don't use enamels enough to know about stripping them. I mean, one would think you could just take your odorless spirits or whatever, and just soak the thing for a couple of days, and it should start stripping the paint off, because that's the thinner. So I would try that as your inexpensive method first. Alright, this green is starting to look awesome. I didn't mention it, but this is the same green that I painted the tank with. I saved it in a bottle. And on big projects, it's a really good idea to save some paint, especially if you're mixing it by yourself. Because this didn't come as a standard mix because I was trying to get closer to that Fury color, which is not anything like a Sherman Tank color, to be honest. So I made my own paint. Alright, so we've got 2 guns, we've got our jerry cans. Let's see, before we go, let me just show you real quick what we can do to these jerry cans, like in an instant, to bring out that weathering. Let me grab my palette real quick. So if anybody didn't know, oils last a really long time. These are oils from when I was painting the Slave 1, and I still think they're probably good with a little bit of thinner. So I bought... Oh, wrong side. This is from like Michael's or something. Stupid expensive. Do not recommend this, but you can go to Walmart and get odorless paint thinner. It's just fine for most uses. You know, again, if you want to go... Oh, maybe they finally dried. Okay, well they dried. Let me grab a couple of colors. Okay. Oh, here it is. Alright, so we're just going to start with some titanium white. Some burnt umber. And some yellow ochre, which is just the darker yellow that I have. I need to get a better set of oils. These are cheapos, but they perform a function. So, grab a little bit of oil paint, dabbing off most of it. Then real quick, we just put a little bit of thinner on there. Doing that dotting method that you see people do on tanks. Yeah, it gets confused. This is actually, while you might consider it the first part of a weathering process, it's really just tone variation. So I'm not really replicating dust. I'm replicating the aging process of the green paint itself. So it's like the very first step in the weathering process, but it's not really weathering. It's just coloring. Like, we haven't even really started the weathering process of the tank yet, even though we're on the mud. The weathering process is going to be later on. Once we get back to the tank, we'll be in the weathering process, which is all the dirt and the grime and the oil and rust. But tomato, tomato. I always thought that this was part of the weathering process. Just learning so many things these days. So for those of you who stuck around till the end of the episode, this is my little treat for you. It's super simple. But, I mean, the variations that are visible now are just awesome. I have an entire roll of this black colored paper, and I was hoping that it would help with contrast, but it makes all this dark greens so much darker. So I'm just going to finish up doing this, and then we'll be done for the day. I know we're going a little bit over time. I've got a crap load of stuff to do tonight. So the reason why I put the thinner on first is because it helps the paints to flow instead of stain, especially because I didn't seal this paint first. So if you don't seal the paint, you're guaranteed that these oils are going to stain the acrylic. They will stay there. Which we don't want. Especially if we were doing something like a panel line, where you're doing that black oil wash like Plasmo does every once in a while on his stuff, which I think is a really cool idea. You've got to have that nice glossy coat so that you can wipe the oil back off. So I'm just moving very quickly through the tops of these. It's already going to start the staining process while we're sitting here. So you got to move quick. Usually you do a small surface at a time. Okay. So these cans are usually set in their upright position. Because of that, we're going to let gravity decide how the paint goes. So we're doing a vertical stroke, as if the aging of the paint was vertical because of rain and things like that going up and down on the cans. And I'll show you when we get to the top of the cans. There's not much surface area there. But you go in a different stroking method for anything that's a horizontal surface. Much more random. And if I was completely doing this properly, which I will go back after and finish up later, I would be adding a little bit of blue to this too, because blue makes the green a little bit richer, and you want to have a couple of spots of like richer, darker color on the green, as well as the variations of the yellow, making it lighter. So that's something to consider if you have got something that's green that you want to age. Add a little bit of blue to it. And you can do all of these steps in layers. You can wait a couple of days, you can do more. Oils are extremely forgiving, they just take forever to dry. Now I notice with this container here, see how we had that little bit of green there at the bottom? We're just going to make it look pretty dirty and worn. Give it a second to let it dry a little bit, that way I can move it around some more. The alcohol evaporates pretty quick, so we don't have to worry about that too much. Sorry, I might not be lined up with the camera well enough for you to see what I'm doing to these ends here. Alright, we're going to let that can dry that way. Just a little bit of yellow and a little bit of brown at the bottom. Covered it up. No worries. Same with anything here. Like if we get little spots here, once this stuff dries and I take it off and do some more weathering to it, we'll fix it with just darker colors. So that's the basics. Not much more to it. There are specific colors that you use for specific colors. We can go over that in a different video, but we've got some pretty nice looking cans there that have that aged paint look. And then for the final weathering process, we'll do that after it's already on the tank. So when we do dust and grime, it matches with the tank. So pretty simple there. And then our guns are looking pretty good. I'll probably give them another coat of both all over. But they're darkening up. And then their aging process as well will go with the tank, so that they match as well. So we're doing all right. So far, I've shaken the camera dramatically, and we painted some stuff. So there's what we painted. You can see those cans a little bit better that way. I'm not sure. Watercolor's a little bit different. Now, I know watercolors themselves are a very similar process to what we do. Like, we are watercoloring with paints, but I don't think there's enough pigment in the paints to get the same kind of effect that you're looking for. You could try it, though. It'd be interesting to see. So I'm going to make a separate video that's going to be a tips and technique video on finishing the canvas. We've got a couple more pieces of that, and then doing the oil weathering for this. So that's going to be coming up, which means I've got to do all the shooting this week so that we can move on to other stuff next week. So that's going to be fun. These guys are pretty much almost done. I need to do a little bit of oil weathering on those guys. The cans look great. We got to add the rust spots wherever I did that texture. So then those are done. On Monday, we are going to go through the rest of these. So I've got 2 containers full of stuff. I've got boxes here. I've got some tank treads, some army helmets. I've got a tire. And then we've got all of our little tools that go on the actual tank. So Monday's going to be wood weathering. Tiny, tiny wood weathering for all these little pieces. And then we'll also do the crates. So we're going to show you how to do the technique of the crates with the acrylics. So that's going to be Monday's task, and if we've got more time, since it'll be a longer stream, we'll do the helmets and the tire, and maybe do some oil weathering or something like that. But I'm hoping to get these wrapped up so that we can actually start getting back to the tank on Wednesday. So that's the goal. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you're watching the replay, I love that you guys are being able to take advantage of these tutorial sessions, these live sessions. I know that sometimes they go pretty long, but I hope that you're getting information that you need out of them. Thanks, Kappa and Brayden, for always being on there to chat with me. I think that is awesome. And if any of you guys want to chat, Mondays and Wednesdays, we are live Central Time, always at 9, and I'm trying to start going on a little bit earlier and going later on Mondays, so expect to be on at 8 o'clock Central Time on Mondays. Please like, subscribe, and do me a favor, and if you're a part of Facebook groups or you've got friends that are on Facebook, please share these videos on social media so that we can get some more people to view and to comment and to chat with us. Because the sooner we get to 1,000 subscribers, the sooner I'm able to get some sponsorships. And then I want to start doing giveaways on the live stream. I want to start doing giveaways on Patreon and get that set up with special videos and special rewards for you guys. All of that needs to come once we get 1,000 subscribers. So that is the goal. I want to see if we can get 1,000 subscribers over the next couple of months so that we can really get this thing cracking. But I will talk to you guys at 8 o'clock on Monday. You guys have a great rest of your week and weekend, and keep on modeling.